location of the sign. There was a sign permit denied on this particular piece of property located on 3155 North College Avenue. I want to reiterate for the record, this is not a sign appeal. Those aren't allowed to go in front of the City Council. What it is looking at the application of this particular ordinance related to properties within the city. This particular property was developed many years ago. It's had some additions and changes over the last few years. The applicants applied for a sign permit. Chapter 166.18 states that the city shall require the developer applicant to establish a right-of-way setback line based on the right-of-way requirements designated by the master street plan. That master street plan is a document that you all adopt about roughly every 5 years. We're actually in the process of updating that plan currently. It is established under state law that the City Council can adopt a master street plan to prohibit improvements within an established master street plan setback. That right-of-way line is considered the property line for developments that come through. Because this sign is associated with that development and with that addition that occurred, I think 2006, 2007, we established the setback that we utilize is the established master street plan setback line. On this particular piece of property, when that addition occurred, it was actually a 55 feet from right-of-way line that was established. We're actually measuring a little less than that, 48.5 feet, and the reason is because between the time the applicant established that line and today, the City Council adopted a lesser right-of-way master street plan for this particular location, at 48.5 feet. So that's really what we're measuring. The applicant's position is that the existing right-of-way along College Avenue, not the master street plan right-of-way, should be used for any type of setback for this particular structure. And that's where I think really the disagreement comes into place. As the city code states that you all are charged with making a decision with any type of interpretation of a city code and an appeal of that city code. We have provided an alternate solution. I discussed that with some of you at the tour on Monday. I think one of the alternate solutions could certainly provide some relief, and one of them could provide all of the relief that this applicant is seeking without actually having to approve the appeal. We obviously don't feel like you should grant the appeal. We think this is an important part of our code that we utilize every day in issuing building permits across the city, and it's applied consistently to all those properties. What we do recommend, however, is the City Council pass a resolution tonight basically denying the appeal but approving a master street plan resolution for this particular piece of property, reducing the amount of master street plan right-of-way required for this piece of property. There are two options there. One, you could look at what the Planning Commission is currently considering. Staff's actually recommending a reduction further of 5 feet from centerline for the master street plan right-of-way of College Avenue. So instead of 48.5 required today, it would go to 43.5. That's something that we're bringing forward. We've got positive signs, at least in discussion with the Planning Commission for that cross-section to bring forward to them formally and then to you all as a City Council to reduce that right-of-way. And so that's certainly a recommendation we would support for this particular piece of property. Also, we discussed another option at the tour and also at the agenda session, that the City Council actually has the right to reduce the right-of-way all the way down to the existing right-of-way, which is 40 feet from centerline. The existing right-of-way today. That right-of-way is owned by the state, so you have no authority to give up the state's right-of-way, but you could reduce the city's measurement to that 40-foot line. We are certainly supporting, in this particular case, a recommendation to reduce it to at least 43.5. I think that would provide a great deal of relief, at least 5 feet, and staff would support that resolution. We don't feel like the appeal is warranted, however, and would recommend a denial of the actual appeal of how our master street plan setbacks are measured throughout the city.
Okay, now let me ask you all something. Do you want to hear from the applicant now, or you want? I think that would be the proper thing to do, and then just ask whatever question you want from everybody. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, Tracy.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I don't know that I've ever made an argument this late at night, but I'll give it a try. I distributed via email yesterday evening a package that was generally our position on the interpretation of Chapter 166.18 relative to signs and our opinion of whether a sign is considered development or what have you, and that we don't feel like, and have, hopefully if you had an opportunity to look at that package, we've offered enough proof in there that Chapter 166.18 has not been applied evenly or the same throughout over the last decade, or consistently over the last decade. I think I included some exhibits or whatever that would prove that. Basically, we are here because we need a sign, and we need a particular size sign and setback at the 40-foot right-of-way, setback measured from the 40-foot right-of-way, which has been historic along North College Avenue. In fact, in the package I sent to the council, I think it's exhibit, I believe it was exhibit 2, the second, I've got it in front of me. Exhibit 2 shows that even in 2001, 2001, we did improvements on the building at 2223 North College, where we also added to the building, and the master street plan setbacks would have come into play in that particular remodeling as well. After that remodeling was done, the building was expanded. We later applied for a sign permit, and it was granted to be measured at the setback at 10 feet from the historic 40-foot right-of-way. Even on this property alone, we expanded the building in 2006, and the master street plan right-of-way applied to that expansion. Again, the expansion of the building would be considered development. Requires a building permit, could potentially put additional impact on the surrounding infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. Later on in 2007, we also pulled a parking lot permit after these improvements were done. That parking lot was designed and the setbacks for the parking spaces or whatever was also measured from the historic 40-foot right-of-way, not 55 feet. And that actually was not in your package. It was something that we researched and found today, and I have copies of that with me that I can distribute if the council wants to see it. Basically, though, is this. You know, our avenue to being able to get the sign that we need required this appeal. And we really don't, it doesn't really make any difference to us if the appeal is granted as far as the sign itself goes. I'm not asking the council to set any precedents tonight as far as Chapter 166.18 goes. And I appreciate the staff recently coming up with supporting a measurement at 43.5 feet from center line. We appreciate that, and that's the spirit of working with us, and but it doesn't help us. This parking lot was designed, and again, from the 40-foot right-of-way, so therefore the islands that are in the parking lot are basically 25 feet deep. If we measure 10 feet back from the right-of-way, the rear of the sign will be right at the edge of the rear island. If we move it back so much as an inch, it will drop off into the parking lot, and so now we're down to shrinking the sign and setting it back further, et cetera, which for a 35,000 square foot building, the limit of 75 square feet on the sign is already well, in our opinion, it could be bigger, and we'd be very happy with that, but that's all we can have by code. So I've talked to some of the council members, and we are okay with if the city council would rather deny this appeal, but allow us to change the right-of-way along North College on our side of the road or what have you at 40 feet from center line. Then we could reapply for our permit and get what we need, and we'd be okay either way. Like, answer whatever questions you have.
Yeah, what questions do we have for both? I mean, I guess we'll just throw it out that way. Matthew?
On the tour yesterday, I had one question that I didn't ask, and that was if we went with the 43.5 foot right-of-way, have you considered the option of extending the island there?
Yes, it's possible to do something like that, other than the city has a regulation where we have to have 24-foot center lanes or drive aisles or whatever, parking lots. When we redid that, I don't know if you remember what the building looked like in 2006 in the parking lot, but it was almost 100% pavement. We actually shrank the size of the parking lot, added more green space and all the landscape area out front along North College that used to actually all be parking spaces. And at the south end towards the lot, it's again measured at the historic right-of-way of 40 feet. Up at the northern end of the lot, we had more room because of the shape of the property or whatever. So we actually set our parking spaces back further and installed a sidewalk and added a bunch of green space or whatever. And so therefore we closed that drive lane down to 24 feet. So if we extended the island as you're speaking of, then our drive lanes would not be in compliance with code.
Thank you.
Bobby?
I just want to make sure I understand. You're saying that that you're all right with doing away with the appeal, or not the appeal not being granted, and the 40 foot from right of way, if we can do a resolution to remove that parcel to a 40 foot right of way to allow you for that sign, you're okay with that?
I would be okay with that as well. The end net result gets us what we need for those businesses that are located at that building. And one thing I wanted to add is I understand the need for maintaining right of way as much as possible for road improvements, future improvements, or what have you. But when we redid that building in 2006, at that time, we took and we put all overhead utilities underground, installed sidewalks, et cetera, drainage, what have you, whatever. All the improvements along that stretch of North College, at least on our side of the road, they're done, they're complete. The city doesn't have to put in a sidewalk later or anything like that. We've already done all that. And
Is the water line and the sewer line not still in the street?
that's underneath the street. It's
In the street.
It's actually underneath North College. In fact, I was talking to Dave Jurgens about that earlier today.
And it's a relatively old line.
It could be 100 years old for all I know.
Jeremy, the master street plan it's our tool and guide for development. What would you recommend if I wanted to make an amendment to resolve this, to go back to the 40 foot setback so he could deny the appeal, but on this particular piece, go 40 foot right away from 40 feet in the right of way?
Kit would probably write the resolution, but I would certainly make a motion to deny the appeal, but with a resolution in that same motion to approve a resolution amending the master street plan for this property, 3155 North College Avenue, reducing the master street plan right away to 40 feet in this location. I think that would accomplish what you just asked me.
What you would have to do if you're going to reduce the master street plan even down from the 47.5 that is recommended down to even 43 or 40, you will have to follow the code section, which is 16604B3AI, and find that that there is an undue hardship or practical difficulties with the subject property that justifies reducing the master street plan. Before you make that motion, I'd like to ask Jeremy one question about that. If Mr. Hoskins was going to build his sign or place his sign within his island, so it would not be able to be 10 feet back from the established setback, but it'd be like 6.5 feet back, how much smaller would his sign have to be? I think he wants a 75 square foot sign. How much smaller would the sign be if he kept it within his island?
At a 6 foot or 5 foot tall, 6 foot tall sign, the display surface area is measured, not necessarily, it's just the display surface area is 75 square feet. So for every foot that it reduces, then you'd have to make that calculation. But
23%.
So how many square foot would your sign be able to be?
roughly 52 square
52
feet.
to 55.
It's probably
About 52 square feet?
Mhm.
So you would all be determining that that having a sign 52 square feet instead of 75 square feet would be an undue hardship and a practical difficulty for his property.
Or when we were out there on the tour, where the sign would be moved to, where we'd have to put it, it seems to me like it would present an undue hardship.
Well, if he could only have a 75-foot sign, that would be correct, because that would be impeding into the drive aisle, as he explained. But he does have the option in the signed ordinance to have it placed closer to the right-of-way but with somewhat of a reduction in size down to 50-something square feet instead of 75 square feet.
I'd like to go that way with the resolution, except I'd like to have it worded that if we agree to the 40-foot, if the council agrees to the 40-foot from the right-of-way on the master street plan exemption, then the appeal would be denied or withdrawn. I'd rather have that first. If the council agrees to the 40-foot, then the appeal is withdrawn. Is that?
Well, it would, you can't vote on the 40.
Well, he's not withdrawing his appeal, I don't think.
No, he said it didn't make any difference to him if he got the 40 feet. He said that, didn't I understand you to say that?
Yes, sir, but there is one thing I'd like to clarify, a statement that Mr. Williams just made. Regardless of the size of sign, it can't be moved closer to the right of way. In other words, so I didn't want the council to,
I guess I'm confused.
Well, I guess I am too, because you had made the statement that the smaller sign could be moved closer to the right of way. The setback is the setback.
Is that not correct?
That's correct. 10 feet is the minimum you can be.
Yeah, that's.
Closest you can be to the right-of-way line. It's the right-of-way line that would potentially move. I would offer that the reason we're recommending, we would certainly recommend 43.5 and potentially even 40 as a unique hardship, is that this is a fully developed property. There are five lanes of traffic here. There's a sidewalk, there is green space. And so I think if you look up and down College Avenue in this particular location, there is not another property that has this particular condition. I would offer that as a particularly unique situation in that Mr. Hoskins redeveloped his property in the last few years and did provide that infrastructure. And so that's certainly part of what you could utilize as a finding. But Mr. Hoskins is correct in that the sign can only be 10 feet from the right of way. What would happen is if the island is the impediment, then it has to get smaller because the sign is reduced in length.
So you're okay with 40 feet, bottom line? I just want to get this in.
That's not his first choice, I don't think.
It's not my first choice, that's correct. That's correct.
Mayor, I would like to make a comment on that, and that's just because the reason, Jeremy and I talked about the 40-foot, the likelihood that you're going to have a road that's greater than a 5-lane road going through this section of town is probably not very likely. And that's why we have some comfort in getting that closer to the 40 you're talking about. The concern that we have, though, is that we're experiencing on Garland Avenue with the state construction project that while we have aged water lines and things running under the road, when they improve projects, they require that to be moved out of the lane area into your right-of-way areas. So if ever in the future we came back and did that and you had something in the way, then you're talking about dealing with that movement aspect. So, I mean, we don't know if that would happen. I don't know the age of the line any more than Tracy does, but I don't want to give up something that we later have to come back and get if we have to move a line underneath the road out into the actual uncovered road area.
And I should tell you, I talked with David Jurgens about this issue, and he said that the water line at that particular location is very old. They've had problems with it, and even if the highway department does not come back to improve it, he would like to see the water line, the water main moved out of the road so that when it blows or when it needs to be replaced, you don't have to dig up College Avenue. You'll be off College Avenue when you're digging it up.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
can I ask a question?
Can I say?
Well, I mean,
I'm
let city
not
attorney.
relinquishing my floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's still got the floor and kids.
Well, I just wanted to convey that because Mr. Jurgens, I guess, is not here now, but I talked to him yesterday, I think, about this particular issue. Now, I should say that the only thing this would do, this is not right-of-way. The city has not gained any right-of-way from Mr. Hoskins. This is only would keep development out of the place where if we needed to move the line and we were buying the right-of-way, it wouldn't have a sign on it that would be a more expense to the city. But we don't own anything beyond the 40 feet.
What's your take on that?
Actually, I talked to Dave Jurgens about, well, while you guys were having your very long, extensive, grueling meeting on the Streamside thing, the line is 65 years old. And there's not been any problems with that line along North College in our area. They have had problems with the line down in front of Burger King. In fact, he told me it happens every Thanksgiving Day, as a matter of fact, for the last 3 years running. Also, bear something in mind. The cross-section of the road there is 55 feet. The city has 80 feet of right-of-way. The city has 11 feet on both sides to locate utilities or whatever. That is the condition all over town in every street all over town. Where you see the exterior edge of the sidewalk, that's the limitations that the city has. Okay, so they have 11 feet outside the highway to put whatever utilities or what have you. And regardless, if the sign is set back 10 feet from the historic right-of-way, and Jeremy is saying 43.5 feet, we're saying 40 feet, the sign is set back 10 feet. So you take the 10 feet minus the 3.5, the sign is still 7.5 feet back.
Hang on just a minute,
Yeah.
Mr. Hostin. Let's all get kind of, I know
Okay.
Brenda
All I
wants
want
to
to
ask
say
some
is,
questions.
I'd like a resolution for number one is to give him, change the Master Street Plan, 40-foot right of way. And if that passes, then right along the same thing.
Why don't you say have one resolution does it both? And the
Yeah, that's what I
resolution
mean.
would say
If it
that
passes, then the appeal's removed.
that the city council has determined that an undue hardship or practical difficulty has occurred on Mr. Hoskins' property justifying reduction of the setback line to the 40-foot setback. And section 2 is that the appeal is therefore denied.
If
So
the
you're-
first is passed.
Well, you pass them both at the same time?
Yeah, okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Now, Brenda, did you have any questions you wanted?
Well, I just wanted to say, what, does 3.5 feet make that much difference in all of this?
Does
I mean,
Mr.
it doesn't
Hoskins
seem,
score?
I mean.
Only you
So-
can
No,
do that.
no, I'm talking about, does 3.5 feet make that much difference in the water sewer line issue?
I agree with her.
So that's all I was asking. This is so belated, it really doesn't matter now.
Okay.
And I do appreciate your patience, by the way. I know it's late and it's awful. And
Motion is second.
So was that your motion then to pass that resolution?
And we got a second. Is there any other discussion on it? Okay. Would you like to have me have it read back, or has everybody got it? Okay. Any other public discussion on it, I guess? Well, see,
hey, come on, they've stuck it out all night.
Dr. Hayes, that would have actually been funnier about 4 hours ago. That's good, though. All right, if there's not any other discussion, Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Teddy?
Yes.
Tennant?
Yes.
Farrell?
Yes.
Adams?
Yes.
Gray? Yes. Teal?
Yes.
Kenyon?
Yes.
Okay, well, that concludes our evening. Well, you're certainly welcome.
It was worth it, huh?
Is there any other announcements? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all.
It's still Tuesday.